Today I will talk about an evaluation of CaosDB in glaciology. So my talk will be split into two parts. First, I will give a quick overview over CaosDB, and in the second part, I will talk about how we transferred that system to a problem at the AVI in Bremerhaven. You might notice there's a third affiliation appearing there, IndyScale GmbH. We recently founded, some of the authors founded a service company for providing commercial support and custom developments for that system. So what is CaosDB? So first of all, I would briefly like to introduce some important requirements for us in research and for research data management for our research. So we are interested in having a simple but expressive search functionality. We need to be able to store every data format at any file size. We also need to be able to have the possibility to store link and retrieve raw data, but also process data, analysis results, and documentation. So not limited to raw data. We want to support all kinds of data analysis software, from simple scripts to high-level software. We want a minimally invasive workflow, so the last 2 points are actually related. We want that users don't have to adapt to a new system, but we want to adapt the new system to the users and how they work. And one requirement is very important for us, the scientific environments, especially I come from biomedical physics, change really often. We have new devices, we have new hardware, new software, so we have the need for a flexible data model. So we cannot reprogram the system every time we buy new hardware or new software. So I think the software landscape has a lot of solutions for data acquisition and for data publication. So there, for example, in the field of electronic lab notebooks, there are many good solutions already available. Also in the field of data repositories for the final publication of data, there are a lot of really good working possibilities, for example, also at the AVI. But in an intermediate stage, so CaosDB is more targeting the intermediate stage where data analysis kicks in, and where we also want to be able to directly store the results of our data analysis again in CaosDB. So not only the raw data, but also every intermediate step until we finally push that stuff or the final result to a data repository. And how does it in principle work? So for the data acquisition, as I said, we want you to use your desired workflow. You probably generate some kind of data files on some kind of file system. And CaosDB has an automatic crawler that needs to be adapted to special use cases, but in principle is able to automatically index files on the file system in order to create entities and records in CaosDB. And afterwards, you are able to either browse the data through a web user interface or use any of the available client interfaces that communicate via RESTful XML protocol with the server software. And here I depicted the Python interface, which currently is the most established interface. You can use it for automatically querying data and also for interactive data analysis. So the current state and the future of the project in general, it's a scientific project as the research group Biomedical Physics at the Max Planck Institute for Dynamics and Self-Organization in Göttingen. It's developed since approximately 8 years and running stable since 2016. Originally it was developed for our own purposes, but we have released it as open source software last year. And as I mentioned, we just a few weeks ago founded this service company. CaosDB is currently tested in other workgroups in and outside of Göttingen. So far, we have received very positive feedback, and about one of these evaluations I'll talk about now. So CaosDB in glaciology at the AVI in Bremerhaven. So what were the aims of the collaborative project? So initially, they had a very concrete problem. They wanted a system for efficient management of ice core boxes. And they want to have the possibility to have a flexible extension, for example, to sample management. So to really analyze, to store the analysis results and the samples within the database and connect them. For us, it was interesting to test whether this flexible data model really works outside of our own context or in the context of polar research. We also wanted an evaluation of the system in general in a different scientific environment with possibly different backgrounds from scientists and technicians. And of course, very valuable for us feedback from very new users that haven't used the system before. So what are we actually talking about? These ice cores look like this. So this is the state when they are basically drilled in Greenland or Antarctica on a glacier. And here we can see this process during the actual data acquisition. Of course, it's not possible to store them like this in Germany. So as soon as they are transferred to Germany, there are huge piles of pallets within a freezer storage facility. Here we can see a pile of boxes. Every one of these boxes contains pieces of ice cores, chunks of ice cores. And of course, this is very difficult to keep track of these ice cores, especially when they are given away for data analysis to other institutes, or also at the same institute for people carrying out the data analysis. And so we started designing a very simple data model and inserting it into CaosDB. So we essentially have boxes. We have a box type. We have loans, which store the properties of boxes that are given away for some amount of time. We have pallets which are connected to the boxes and basically store the location within freezer facilities. And of course, person, a very simple type that can be used to look for all kinds of responsibilities. So this is the initial model. Later I'll show an extension also to sample management. But first of all, it allowed us to right away with the existing system do very simple but useful searches, like finding specific records box with, for example, a specific number, or generate overviews over boxes with specific contents, or to find boxes which reference other entities, like which reference another palette with a specific number. So the system in this case already proved that it can handle these rather simple but useful requests right away. Later I will show that also very complex statements that like these chained queries for linked properties become possible and enable users to search for example, data that is or cores that are connected to specific material or data analysis. So this is how it would look like if we search for a box in the web UI of CaosDB. You see essentially 3 text properties here and 3 linked properties, a responsible person, a box type, and a palette. This is basically what the visualized representation of what we just saw looks like. And now the important workflow comes into play when we want to borrow a box. So assume we want to borrow this box, do an analysis on this box. We can click this little button here on the top right and fill a form. So in this case, I already filled it with my name and my email address and expected return date and some other comments that are useful for the data curator at this institute. And the system will handle this, will connect another type, which we have seen previously, loan, which stores all the information about the whole process of lending and returning ice core boxes in this process. And it will also adapt to what is happening here. So in this case, the administrator of the system can accept the borrow request, can also put the box into place and handle the whole process of lending and returning boxes. And the system will keep track of the changes. So this is what the whole ice core box loan workflow looks like. So we have basically a borrow workflow with an end state lend, and we have another workflow for the return. And there, another challenge came into play. So the ice core facility where they store boxes is handled by an external company, and these companies, as soon as boxes are returned, hands out an Excel sheet basically with new information. So with new information about where boxes have been put in the end and on which pallet they are stored. And it's a bit clumsy to enter all this information about the new location manually. So we decided to integrate an automatic return, which we integrated into CaosDB. So we have just a small JavaScript extension for CaosDB, which allows you to upload an Excel sheet. So this is the Excel sheet provided by the company. And if you press submit, this sheet will be uploaded, processed by CaosDB, and all the information that is necessary to keep track of the new location of boxes will be updated and stored in that loan property. So in the end, you get a result that 16 boxes have been updated successfully. And this it really helps in managing the daily work with the loan workflow at this institute. So for searching the CaosDB, we of course we have this full text semantic search facility in the CaosDB query language, but we provide a lot of shortcuts for the end user that facilitates basically all these shortcuts just generate some statements in CaosDB query language in order to search for statements that are used very often efficiently. And these shortcuts can also updated and created by the user depending on what is necessary for them. And we found that actually the query language already proved to be quite simple to use. People get adapted to this language really quickly. Here we see also one product that worked right away because it was already integrated, that you can, for example, generate overviews over existing entities, for example, over all current loans with a very simple query. Okay, for the final part, I want to show that it's actually possible to go to sample management and also to do automatic data analysis from within the system itself. And therefore, we created a prototype. So behind each core, there is also a structure that builds on it, and these cores are actually cut into strips and separated into bags and into sections, and in the end there are different types of analysis run on these sections. And here, for example, for this fabric type, we have two types of analysis that can be carried out, and one analysis might result, for example, in one plot that is later maybe published or used for further data analysis. And we thought it might be useful to integrate this because it's needed very often into the system itself. So we, for a specific type of analysis where we already have a pre-processed image, we provide a button in the user interface called Analyze Data, which you can use to feed this data set directly into a Python script that is running in the background on the server and which automatically generates an output. And I think what is also really valuable, also connects this result directly to the analysis and stores this back into CaosDB. So when users use this automatic analysis facility, they can also directly keep track of processed results, of output of results, because it's stored into CaosDB back right away. Yeah, and with this I would like to thank you for your attention and highlight that we have this open source project on GitLab, on our local GitLab by the GWDG in Göttingen, and also a paper on archive, which is also currently under review in a peer-reviewed journal, but which you can already download here as a preprint. So thank you.